Wow, I get to start the show. And for all of you who are joining the show, we are doing our very first live episode of the Human Resource Podcast. So welcome. We are so excited to be here. I have got a room back here full of about 6 interns who are working their very first live podcast. I've got my production team over here on my left, and we have got a tremendous topic for you today. My name is Pandy Pridemore. I'm an HR consultant, mediator, and arbitrator for employment law located right here in Cincinnati. And
Not recording.
Think about this topic: human plus machine, evolving the role of HR. Well, I have to tell you that the show has, if you don't follow us on a regular basis, the show is always driven by our audience. It's driven by questions and comments sent in about regulatory and compliance aspects of HR. But what topic beats this one? And my first guest is, I couldn't think of anybody else to start to launch in on this conversation with. I'd like to introduce Jackson Lynch, the Talent Sherpa. Jackson was on a podcast here a couple of weeks ago talking about the 3 hats of HR. And Jackson, I have to tell you, it was absolutely amazing. The feedback I got back on that particular show was so consistent in the fact that what you said got people thinking. One gentleman said, I watched the podcast and all of a sudden I started thinking about the whole biological aspect of how all these changes and all the rethinking and the transitions, how this is affecting us as people. And it's going so fast. And basically what we want to do today is give our viewers and audience an opportunity to think about where they are in their roles and where they might be in the next couple of years, because AI is not going away.
It's not a fad.
It's not even a trend. It's a reality. And it's not overly favorable to a lot of people. So why don't you recap the 3 hats of HR, since we're actually live on TV today.
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me back. It was a joy to be with you the first time, and it's pretty cool to try to experiment with you in this new format. So
Yeah.
hopefully this works as well as we were all hoping for. So, I will push back on a couple of things before I answer your question, and that is that it's going to negatively impact people. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion, and over the time we have this morning and early afternoon, I'd like to unpack that a little bit, because I think that is something that the agency with which we approach this era will, undoubtedly remain with us. So that said, let me talk about the 3 hats. I've been working on this kind of concept for a while now, and I think there are really 3 things that human capital leaders have as part of their portfolio. The first hat is what I call the company defender hat. That is the compliance hat. That is, as you are more junior in your career, the closer you are to the administrative elements of human capital, the more you are in employee relations and making kind of difficult decisions around those. Those are the things that really fill up the company defender hat. And the intention there is, I'm going to protect the company's 6. I'm going to eliminate risk, and I'm going to be really compliance oriented around decisions and hiring decisions and process applications and those kind of things. The second hat is what I will call the employee advocate hat. And I want to make a real clear distinction here. That's not what most people are considering employee advocacy today. I go back to the Dave Ulrich model that says the company defender is the employee advocate is the one that makes sure that the voice of the employee and the implication on the employees are considered at the highest levels as part of the normal decision process. and it's making sure that we really thought about the implications and that we are thinking about fairness of the application of whatever compliance lens that might have. And then the third hat is what I call the talent maven hat. And that hat is all about enabling the business to drive forward quickly. Think about that as having the right person in the right role at the right time. And that's the broad model. And the application of it is as you are thinking about making any sort of decision, I think it's important to understand. I think it's important to understand the.
Hello.
Hello, are you calling in for the Source podcast?
I don't know if
Yeah,
you can hear
watching
someone's on the
the,
phone.
We've got a caller calling in right now.
the Human Resource Live, and it says you can call in at this number.
Copy. Give me 1 second.
Hey, don't you love live mics?
I do. Pandy, you want me to keep going?
You just keep going. Just keep going.
Okay.
They'll let us know when he's ready.
The the way you make decisions, I think, most effectively is you need to understand the hat that you're looking at. Because as you start in your career, you tend to start out from a compliance lens and a company defender hat. As you get more senior in your career and there's additional operational complexity and you're closer to being inside the business rather than adjacent to it, you are more of a talent maven hat. And sometimes the same decision looked at through those three hats delivers a different outcome, and then you have to figure out how to weigh it. So it's a decision model, and I think the benefit of that approach is naming the point of view that you're attacking a problem with, because there are three distinct points of view.
And this is why I absolutely wanted you to go back over that thought, because that's audience, please understand what he's trying to provide for you. He's trying to give you focus. He's trying to help you understand why AI cannot replace HR completely. There was a recent article in Forbes. A CHRO came in, was a keynote speaker, and she gave three major skills that she thinks are going to be needed in the AI era. One was curiosity, resilience, and connection. Two, resilience. And three, connection. Those are wonderful traits to have, but that's not telling people today in the HR role what competencies or what do you need to be able to do to keep your job. And Jackson, that's why you're here today. Help them understand to fulfill your three hats. These are great characteristics, but how do they gain them, and how do they know if they even have them?
Yeah, it's not a decision framework. You're right.
No. Emotional intelligence, I think we both can admit that emotional intelligence is going to have to be present. Yeah,
but if you were to ask me the thing that will matter above the loop, and we'll unpack this over the time together, I'm sure. But I think human in the loop is at some point going to be replaced by an agentic solution as well. So I think the focusing on those things that are uniquely human, and I think the most important one of those is judgment. AI can tell you what the options are. They can even make recommendations, but they can't actually decide what to do.
I absolutely love that.
That's what judgment is about, and I think that's probably the most important characteristic. I'm a little surprised that wasn't on the list.
Well, here's one of the questions. Why is AI risky to use? I'm using it for creating policies and procedures, and it's saving me a lot of time. But why is that a problem?
So I'm not sure it's necessarily risky in the way we would normally think about risk. I think that you certainly have to work with your IT organizations and make sure that you have the data security element that's there. Anything that's company confidential, anything that has personal information associated with it, broadly defined. Like, you need to make sure that you have your ducks in a row with do you have an enterprise license for whatever large language model that you're using. That is a real risk, and you want to make sure that you don't have kind of the leakage of data security that we all take such good care of today. But I think the question within the context is, if I'm using it to develop policies and I'm using it to evaluate programs, like is that risky? I don't think it is. I use it all the time for that, and but I think it's also important what you're prompting and the context that you give it.
I love it. We've got a caller. And we'll come back to that topic, but let's take our caller here. Thank you for calling in. We're anxious to hear your question. Hello? I was told there was a caller. Okay, I guess they're going to work on that for us. If the caller is there, just let him just talk on top of me.
Hello?
Hi, thanks for calling in. How can we help you? You're with Jackson Lynch.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I keep reading headlines of articles where it says AI will replace HR in the future. Excuse me. So I want to know if this is true or not. And if it's not 100% true, then what kind of things will AI replace for HR professionals?
Jackson, do you want to take that one, or you want me to?
I'm happy to, but this is your show, Pandy. You tell me.
You're my guest. I will jump. I'll just, I'm telling my clients just look at your administrative roles. We've already got payroll companies that are eliminating a lot of the updating PTO, updating addresses. PTO is such a hassle. Nobody really cares about that. But even the benefits companies, the employee benefits companies have Navigator and software that individuals can enroll right online, even file claims online. So from an AI perspective, I think that stuff's already here and is eliminating what 40 years ago we were doing with pencil and paper and very administrative driven. Jackson, what do you think?
Yeah, I let me build on what you share, because I think we're of like mind here.
Yeah.
But let's maybe unpack the initial question that the caller raised, and that is, HR will be replaced. There's a lot of stuff inside the bucket that we just called HR. Okay, there is the administrative burden that we execute, and to your point, Pandy, we have continued to make progress on ensuring that we have efficiency in the process while we have the security associated with personal information. That will only continue to strengthen. What we haven't always done well is redesign the work. And so one of the things that this technology, unlike some other technologies previously, will allow us to do is have a fresh lens that say, I need to understand my entire workflow. I need to define what I'm solving for. I then need to look at each of the tasks, including all of the wraparound processes, which today are primarily human driven. I need to then define, is this a high value or a low value task? I then want to think about the rules associated with the judgment associated with it. And then I want to be really thoughtful about how I reconstruct that work. A reasonable example outside of human capital is what IBM has done recently. And what Helen, who's the CHRO there, recently did is they went and looked at all of their frontline engineering, I think it was frontline engineering roles. I might be wrong on that, so I apologize if I goofed that. But they went and they looked at it, and they did that same kind of diagnostic work. And they found that a substantial amount of their day was done in the administrative piece. And so the kind of gut reaction is, okay, I can replace those entry level roles if the majority of them are administrative. But, and the but here is really important, that is the long-term foundation of all of my talent planning. And if I eliminate that entry level rule, I'm going to get a cost benefit today, but I'm going to have a bigger problem 5 to 7 years down the road where I don't have frontline leaders. I'm going to have issue a couple of years after that when I have a leader of leaders. And so they redesigned the work around those things that are uniquely human, and they rebuilt that job. And then they said, we're going to lean in and make the bet that other people are going to just cut it. So we are going to triple the amount of people that we're bringing into the organization in that redefined, the human judgment versus the administrative piece. Now, pull this back into HR. There are things inside of HR that require a lot of human judgment, even in the areas that are primarily administrative. I think those jobs are going to need to be reconsidered and reconfigured so that the human above the loop has an opportunity to exercise those things that are uniquely human. And what we will have to do is then figure out what is the most efficient way for highly repetitive, clear rule design, clear administrative process design. And those are probably going to be agentic. So to your point, Pandy, like we used to use an abacus. Now we use a calculator, and in the future, someone is going to do the math for us. Mm-hmm. But it'll be uniquely ours on what to do with that base level work. I think that makes the work better. I think it allows us to have work that is more meaningful to us. And, that's not the same as HR gets replaced, because especially in our function, there are so many things that we do unique to the balance of the organization. I think this frees us up to add a tremendous amount of value. HR is not going away, but I think how we design the work is absolutely going to change.
It's interesting. I think that this is going to give, remember, there's five disciplines within HR. I mean, you can become a specialist in safety, training, compensation, employee benefits, organizational development, employee relations. There's so many different entities within HR. Oh, recruiting. Didn't even mention recruiting. And I think that's 8.
And the most valuable one you didn't mention, I think that is management of talent density.
Well, and see, I group that in with recruiting. Thank you for dividing it, because that's just how much HR is evolving, even without AI. So, caller, thank you. It's a genuine question, but I hope we've reassured you that if you really take a good hard look at what you're doing and find the areas that you absolutely love doing, you get excited about it within HR, specialize, become an expert. I was presenting to a group of, it was a safety council, and it was a group of individuals all over northern Cincinnati, and the question came up similar. And I said, look, you're in safety. So the 300 report's going to be done by AI. Just chuck that over to the side. But what AI can't do is go out and actually do those audits. AI cannot go out and see proactively a accident before it happens, or see that somebody's not using PPE correctly. I mean, that's going back to human judgment. Every aspect of HR has those opportunities, but we've got to identify them and start developing our own competencies to deal with that.
Yeah, can I double click on something you said though, Pandy? Because I might not see it quite the same way, and hopefully that's
why you're here.
I've always wondered why safety was in HR, and I think in the majority of companies now that is evolving into an operational discipline, not an HR one. And I think that evolution is important, because ultimately you want the people with the accountability to be the ones making the trade-offs. If you have someone in the organization that only gets the upside and doesn't have to take care of the downside, I think you end up with unnecessary tension in the organization. And so, we will, as human capital practitioners, never lose the input of how important it is for us to take care of our folks from a safety standpoint. We want them to to be in the same shape when they go home as they got there in the morning, maybe a little tired because they put in a noble day's work. But that's not probably in the HR design of the future.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be, I think, more narrowly focused, and we will remain in an advocacy role in that process. But I think that's one that will probably migrate towards the operational teams.
I think that's quite genuine and sincere. We have another caller. Please, thank you so much for coming into the show. We're anxious to hear what you'd like to ask. Oh, okay. One moment. He'll be, or she will be with us in just a moment. No, I expect you to disagree with me. I completely expect you to disagree. That's totally okay. We're going to go back to the policy one though, because I got some good comments on that.
Okay.
Do we have our caller now? Okay. I do have a second presenter. Oh, we've got the caller. Okay. Hi. Thanks for coming to the show, or join us, please. What's your question?
Hi, Pandy. It's me. I actually have an example of human judgment instead of a question that I wanted to share with you.
Oh, please do. Is this Danielle?
It is. I didn't know if you wanted to publicly call me out.
Yes, please. Tell Jackson your experience.
Yes. So our company is small and evolving quickly, so we've really adapted to AI. And one of the things I have been using in my role is when I am doing initial phone screening interviews during my recruiting, there is an option for me to be able to have that call transcribed and then summarized. And it's wonderful for me to be able to hand off to the hiring team. But I was sharing with Pandy that while my handwritten notes are gone, what these summaries don't share is that gut instinct of how that person was answering those questions, the pauses they may have been taken. So, for example, I had an interviewee that was driving in the car, very distracted, putting me on hold several times while trying to answer these questions. And the summary from AI doesn't share any of that with you. It doesn't pick up on the behavior of the individual. It is just giving you the information that was said during the call. So I definitely think there's a lot of room left that human judgment plays in HR.
Of course, and you probably bounced the candidate, didn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's not an AI issue. That's the person was a knucklehead and probably unsafe issue.
Absolutely, and it's no AI issue, but I guess it's not giving you that feeling of how an individual is behaving.
No, it's not. But if I could gently push Danielle, and thank you for the question. I think it's a really interesting one. We're not actually that good as human beings interviewing people, and hear me out before you fight me. But I'd love to hear pushback on it. If you think about the way we assign what we're looking for, it is almost never defined in outcomes. It's almost always in experience, sometimes in skill, and sometimes in activities. And if I am looking for somebody, and let's say I'm looking for an accounts receivable clerk, and I'm looking for someone who can collect cash, I'm going to ask a whole series of questions that's going to be different than if I've defined winning for that role as someone whose job is to reduce the cash collection cycle. I'm asking different questions, I'm evaluating differently, and the job is the same, but I've defined winning differently. And the reality is, unfortunately, we continue to spend the majority of our time in the activity, skill, and experience game, and not very much in the confidence of delivering outcomes in the pattern recognition game. That is an area where and by the way, there's a lot of psychological things underneath of it. You get much more of the dopamine hit in the first category, not the second. And as a result of that, this is an area where I think artificial intelligence and machine learning and pattern recognition is going to be really helpful for us to improve it, because at least the stats that I've seen, is you are in for most interviewers, and I bet you're better than most. Okay, but for the majority of interviewers, like even with behavioral based interviewing, you're better off flipping a coin twice and only hiring the person if it comes up tails both times as a predictor of success on the job than if you were to go through a full hour behavioral interview. That's not a great predictor. The R squared is pretty low on that one. And so I think this stuff by itself is going to be helpful. You talked about the administrative help to it, and I think that's going to be absolutely real. The focus of what you ask, I think, is going to be a massive improvement. And then to your point, that doesn't take away the human judgment that says, on paper, this guy sounded great, but he was kind of a jerk. And I don't think that's going to fit here. And that's never going to go away. And it shouldn't.
Excellent question, Danielle. Thank you so much for making a moment to call in and share that with Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. You know, it's interesting. Some of the problems that I've been reading in regards to AI within the recruiting process has been that they caught one particular system showing bias, that if in the resume the individual listed, I was on the women's track team or I was on the committee for women's rights, it literally put it aside because it believed it only provided male-oriented resumes because it felt that a male would be better in the role based on the responsibilities and such. Another said that if individuals had gaps in the resume, gaps of time between employment, well, there was again, AI is not going to ask it why it has a gap, so it just put those off to the side. And you and I both know there are gaps because somebody had a baby or somebody is in the military or somebody's taking care of an elderly parent. Those are only things that we can find out if we have a conversation. Maybe they had a surgery and had to recover on a lengthy recovery. You just don't know. But as of right now, where AI stands in these kind of functions, it's got a ways to go, and people have to use their judgment to complement that.
Sure, but I think what you're describing, Pandy, is not an AI issue. It is a decision model issue.
And to define that decision model.
Um, in a very, very simplistic way of thinking about it, you get the answer that is based upon the prompt that you provide. And so if you have a prompt, if the outcome is they're kind of spitting out people with gaps in the resume, where that might be a reasonable reason or it might be an unreasonable reason. Was it by choice? Was it by some sort of protected activity, or was it because the person just decided to backpack through Europe for 6 months? If it's shooting everyone out of that process, then what you need to do is code it so that it's not shooting people out of that process. Um, it's not a slam dunk that the design is well, the outcome will be what you design it to deliver.
That's the key. And I completely agree. And that is a perfect time to bring in our second guest. Dave Hatter with live show, remember? Live show. Okay. Dave Hatter with Interest IT has been on the show before. He is an absolute brilliant contributor towards conversations about AI, cybersecurity, and where we are from a business perspective coming into all the different changes and trying to get our teams up to speed with that. Is Dave available to join us right now? Okay. When he comes on, I want to go back to the whole idea of the policy writing, because I've had, yeah, bring Dave on. Let's have all three of us on the screen at the same time. I've had some recent AI policies come forward, and some of the gaps that were in them were most obviously, Jackson, the fact that they didn't put the right content in. So AI didn't. It only gave them what they asked them for.
Yeah.
There were very obvious reasons why, this is the dilemma. People just don't know what they don't know right now, and AI is not up to speed where we can just expect it to know what we're thinking.
Yeah.
So one of them was a remote work policy, and the company just went out. Actually, I'm going to back up. This was another consultant who had gone out and put together this and presented it to the company and said, "Hey, I think you should have this policy." And they said, "Well, let's run it by Pandy," which is great. Okay, so think about this: a remote work policy. This is to guide the activities and the behavior and the conduct of an individual you don't see. What would be the first thing that you would want to make sure that a remote work policy had in it? And from a business perspective, I was shocked that nobody figured this out. But how about that you don't want them to work for anybody else? That when they're working for you, you get them from 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever those business hours are. They are not to be working for anyone else or using company equipment to work for anyone else.
Yeah.
And AI completely sidetracked that. In fact, it was more interested in the safety of the workspace and making sure that the cords, you have a safe place to sit. The cords aren't there where you're going to trip on them. I mean, it was, I'm not sure, again, what information went in to write the policy, but I spent an hour with them and we polished it, and we've also polished another policy that they wrote. And then the other day, someone sent me a policy on a PIP that she had written. And again, she's trying, she's figuring it out, she's starting to work with AI, but it was missing so much stuff that we had to kind of back up. And again, she realized, she figured out, okay, I didn't tell it this or I didn't tell it that. But at the same time, it had this tendency to contradict itself. In one spot, it said, this is not a corrective action. In another spot, it said, any further deviation from this will lead to additional corrective action. So again, going back to human judgment, this is not a time to rely strictly on AI.
Yeah, I suspect, and I'll just lean into this one because I'm not sure you wanted to throw this to. If you say, tell me what the policies should be, you're going to get some really, really kind of wonky stuff back. And it sounds like that's what happened in a couple of cases.
Yeah.
It's AI as a thought partner, not AI as decider. So, for example, I would have spent an hour on the prompt, giving context, given what I'm trying to accomplish as an organization, giving the things that I want to make sure are covered, giving it I would ask it for optionality. I would ask it to ask me questions. I would create the point of view that they're asking my questions for, and then at the end, you have all these pieces that you can then ask it to try to organize for you, or you can do that yourself and ask it to audit it. And then I would set it up as the red team, which is the group that says why this isn't going to work, and have it attack it from that angle. And then you decide what actually goes in the policy. So I would come back and say, this isn't a judgment issue versus AI issue. This is a use of AI issue relative to the output. And I think humans have the context and they have the judgment. And in your examples, it feels like we might have downplayed both of those and just went with, give me a policy. And sure enough, it's there. If AI hits fog, it's going to scale the fog. You're going to get foggy faster. And if you've ever flown, that's not a great place to be in an airplane in mountainous terrain.
But what you just did was give our audience another competency that they need to be working on to stay relevant with AI in the workplace. You've got to know how to work with this. And there are classes. There are ways to understand how AI thinks or what information it needs. And the fact that you just mentioned, how many of you in the audience are using AI and asking it to ask you questions? How many of you are spending more than 5 minutes on this? That you fell right into it, Jackson. You followed my lead exactly. Again, we're trying to give you things to work on. We're trying to give you things to think about. And we want all of you to be successful in your jobs, no matter what role you're in, whether it's HR or not. We want you to understand that we have to change. Jackson, you and I talked about this on the last show. Change is the only constant in the universe, and we've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and take control of our careers and our jobs, and ask questions and have people ask questions of us. Is Dave anywhere close to join us? No? Okay.
Then let me maybe build off what you shared, Pandy, because I think there's a point I'd love to share with the audience that I think is a build off of there. I've thought about this a lot recently, and I was doing a keynote on this topic yesterday in Denver. And one of the things that I share with that group, and I'd share with yours, is there are two types of people in this era of artificial intelligence. The first type of person is going to be the one that fights it, that is of it, that doesn't want to be an early adopter of it, that sees it as a threat, that is, someone who is, kind of listening to the doom and gloom of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and what it's going to do to society and humanity. And as a result, they'll wait for it. These are the same people that bought their first iPhone at iPhone 17. Like, okay, I guess the iPhone is here to stay. I should buy one. The second person is one that says, "Oh heavens, I have someone that has a 140 IQ in my pocket, available 24/7." to help me learn and understand things that I would more rapidly than I would ever have been able to do in the future. Someone that can help me think about how I consider problems, give me the ability to create multiple options that can really test my thinking in a safe way, psychological safe way, because I'm not worried about being embarrassed with asking, I don't know what that means of a computer, where with humans we tend to want to appear smarter than we might actually be. And these people are going to become the absolute best AI-enabled version of themselves. Those are the two people. I'm here to tell you, I think those two people will have remarkably different outcomes. And with every day it passes.
Well, for those of you who've stayed with us, thank you so very, very much. Yes, we've had some technical issues, but we had a really great show going there for a while. And the presenter, Jackson Lynch, you just can't beat that. I mean, he is working with organizations all over the country. He hears things that the rest of us may not. But the knowledge and the wisdom is still there. Some of the questions that we got, let me go back over some of these. One of them was, my company hasn't mentioned any changes in the HR function due to AI. Should I be preparing anyways? Well, I hope after this show, you realize, yes, we all need to prepare. We all need to understand that AI is not going anywhere. AI is going to affect us all. But understanding the way that we can approach this and redefine our own skills. I liked the way Jackson said, "Oh, there he is. There he is."
Was it something I said? You knocked me out of here. Come on.
And it was so good. Can you pick up where you left off? Do you remember?
I think I do, because what I was trying to say, and sorry for the momentary interruption.
No.
I went and fed my dogs. what we have, I think, is a moment where the outcomes for those two people, the one that fights it and the one that embraces it,
Yes.
those two people are going to have dramatically different outcomes.
Yes.
And it's going to expand every single day. And nothing can harm you more than picking the wrong side. You've got to use this. And um, and it almost doesn't matter how you use it, other than you get your hands dirty and you try stuff and you figure it out. Like, I'm an old dog, and even I'm learning this new trick. So if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Well, and you know, the thing is, there's no failure. There is no failure. You know, education is ageless. We learn from everything we do. And so try something. You know, just step your foot into the water. And if it doesn't feel right, then back up and start something else. But at least keep moving forward. Keep moving forward.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean have it replace your work. So some of your listeners and viewers may follow me. I write a Substack. We have I don't know, 6,000 plus people that read it every week. I write every word myself. But you know what I do? I use it as a thought partner to make sure that I am talking about the things that matter. And it allows me to kind of dive into the mechanics of whatever that topic is. And then after I write it, I have a prompt that I use, and it says, I want you to read what I just wrote. Tell me the parts that, if you didn't write it, might not be super clear to you, and point me to those areas, and then give me suggestions on how I could rewrite it so that it lands better with the people that read. Like, I'm still, as a content creator, I'm still owning the outcome, and every word is mine. But my writing, way better this year than it was last year, as a result of having a red team, someone that is looking at it and saying what's wrong with it, that helps me real time, rather than waiting for the comments that come in that say, Jackson, I'm sure this was a really good article, but candidly, I don't know what the heck you were talking about.
Well, there's a lot of people out there who don't really know how to take that first step when it comes to HR. And I think the lesson that you and I have just provided for them in this past hour is, don't step back. Step forward. Ask good questions. Keep watching. There's resources. There are lots of resources out there. Even if you haven't been to school for a while, or if you haven't been to a class for learning, do it, because you won't regret it. It's kind of like when somebody said, did you take typing class in high school? Believe it or not, yes, I did. And did I enjoy it? Not all the time. I did have this really good-looking guy that sat kind of catty corner in front of me that was a little older. That was well worth, because I could get into that conversation every so often. But look what it prepared me for. And I was never a receptionist. I never typed, but it certainly helped me with the keyboarding. And any knowledge or any experience that you can have when you surround yourself with people like Jackson, and people who know more and have done more than you have, you're in good company. So don't be afraid. Jackson, thank you so much for putting up with our inaugural event today. The team has tried so hard. I have to. Alex, Jake, Eddie, Lindsay, Carter, Gigi, Will, Patrick, Dean, the entire team that Jason has here at the station is trying their best, and I'm just thrilled that they gave us the opportunity. And for each of you who've been watching, thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. I know this was a mealtime for the East Coast, but I hope that you gained something from it. Send us your feedback. Send us your questions if there are continued. I will stay in touch with Jackson and possibly have him back on if he will humor me one more time. But again, send your questions in right here at the Human Resource.